I am your host, FatDag. You're listening to Wise Advice. My weight loss journey failed when I focused on how. It wasn't until I switched my focus to why that I truly transformed myself. Join the show on the web at fatdag.com and follow along on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube, all at Wise Advice. Send in your comments, your questions, your celebrations. I'll include them as part of the show. But before we dive in, remember, when you're out of points, stop eating points. Hey, I'm honored to be your wingman as we walk through this journey together because I believe in you. Well, hello there. Welcome to episode 298. If you have been following along for 297 other episodes, you know the very first one was recorded in my car as I was driving home from work. Not exactly sure what I was doing. Had to Google what is podcast, and now here we are, 298 episodes later. Wow, amazing. Thank you for being here. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for listening to all 298 of them. I hope you're getting something out of it. With 3.5 million downloads or so, I think so many of you are. So we're 2 episodes away from 300. I kind of want to have a party 2 weeks from now, right? I want to celebrate pretty significantly episode 300. We may be in the studio by then. Back in the new studio. That would be fantastic if that's the case. So here's what I'm looking for. Send in your email of a celebration. What are you the most excited about? It could be you're maintaining your weight, you're at goal, you hit a major milestone, something that is the best thing that's ever happened to you. I want to know about it on air at fatdag.com. That's the email address. Send it in, and you absolutely can be a part of the show. Episode 300, Lisa is tuning in live. Lisa is the producer of this show. She will tell you the inbox could use some loving right now. So on air at fatdag.com, shoot in your email of what are you celebrating? I'm going to ask you at the end of the episode, but I want to know now, what is it that you're celebrating? Let's get episode 300 to be a party like no other. So thanks for that. Hey, we're also new. There's a new podcast app, and of course, I always prefer that you use the Wise Advice app, but if you're an Android user and Google has finally released the Google Podcast app, you can find the podcast in there. Take a listen inside that app. You can use Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio. There's all kinds of places to hear the podcast, but again, I always say my favorite is go to your app store, just get the Wise Advice with FatDag app. It serves 2 purposes. Obviously you can hear the podcast, but more importantly, it's the quickest way you're going to find out there's a new alert and a new episode. But more importantly, what happens is that app stays on your phone. And let's say for some reason you get a little distracted and you take a couple months off, that thing will look at you and go, hey, remember me? And then you'll come back into our community. So thanks for doing that. Thanks for being here. Let's go ahead and dive in. This episode, again, still comes into you commercial free. The Patreon community does an amazing job. And recently, so many people have stepped up, and I want to thank each and every one of you. I started adding the names of the majors, the colonels, and the chiefs to the live show. So if you're looking at the live show, you see streaming across the bottom are the names of those who've stepped up. If you want to add your name to that, fatdag.com, become a patron. That's the way to do that. All kinds of other benefits. I think my favorite is I do a one-on-one phone call with you, and we strategize what everyone, and we do it every month. Every month you're a patron, I'll add a phone call for you. We work on some goals, we work on some strategy type session, whatever you want to chat about. But all of that is included in the Patreon community. We do a chat every Monday afternoon. So join us in there, if you will. So again, thank you, Patreon community, for stepping up and supporting the show. The first email comes in out of Oregon from Ann. Says, hey, I'm a first-time writer to you and a long-time listener. Okay, well, this is not much of an original story in a way, but by that I mean that I realize many people go through a series of difficulties in their lives. This is my story of the last 3 years. About 2.5 years ago, I joined WW for the first time. I was 69 years old. I was excited about WW, and I was tracking religiously and was excited that I lost over 25 pounds. One of the tools I was using during that time was listening to your podcast. Often more than one a day. It was a great tool. Then all of a sudden, my world changed. One of my closest friends, who's also my brother-in-law, was suddenly diagnosed with stage 4 prostate cancer, which Lisa wrote this, and I can't pronounce it, metastasis to the bones. He and my sister live 2 miles from me, and I am the RN in the family. It was, for all of us, a steep learning curve. Although in the past I had spent several years working in hospice care, it's very different when it's your family. Both he and my sister needed a lot of my time and support, which I unhesitatingly gave. But it was a big drain. My sweet husband was very supportive of my time away from home. He considered it a gift from himself to me, as he was also unable to help directly due to health reasons. At the time, though, I was working part-time, just 2 days a week. Unfortunately, those work days were supposed to be about 12 hours, which is a lot. And they actually ended up being 14 or 15 hours by the time I finished the paperwork. Eventually, I cut work down to 1 day a week, as my exhaustion was just building and his care needs were increasing. I became bone weary as this process was taking so long. We had thought that it would probably take 6 months to a year after learning of a diagnosis. It actually took almost 2 years. During those 2 years, some fairly miraculous healing occurred within his family, including his ex-wife and their children. The family became more united with him and each other, and as we all gathered together through this experience. I suspect that this is part of the reason that the process took 2 years. In early March of this year, I finally resigned from nursing. I've been a nurse for almost 50 years and realized that at almost 70 years old, I need to make myself a higher priority and a focus. Plus, I was working almost full-time helping to care for my brother-in-law. The night that I finished my last day at work, I packed a bag and moved in with my brother-in-law and my sister, assuming it would be several weeks or maybe a few more months before he passed. The next morning, his condition intensely changed, and he began the last stages. It was sudden, and it caught us off guard. He had 2 previous periods where he seemed to be so close to death and then remarkably completely bounced back. We teased him, saying he had 9 lives. We and the hospice team would often shake our heads and say, we just can't know because it's him. But this time, he died literally 2 days after I moved in. And then literally the next day, the COVID-19 restrictions began in our area. At his funeral, we all kept social distances. We had it outdoors at the gravesite, and we kept it to a very small group. During this 2-year process with my brother-in-law, I stayed mindful about eating. I was not tracking anymore, yet I did not follow my historical pattern of gaining back all of the lost weight and then some. Rather, I gained back about half of what I had lost and then stayed stable. This was a great reflection of the difference that WW had made in my approach to food. Now, I'm finding myself being very disoriented. 3 major changes back to back. Retirement, my brother-in-law's passing, the COVID-19 restrictions. It's a lot. Suddenly, I'm eating only a little bit mindfully and a lot impulsively. Add to that, my husband, my cohort through life of 49 years now, despite being very type 2 diabetic, has continued his ongoing pattern of always keeping candy and always having things like brownies in the house. Lately, I'm not good at resisting these things, especially while housebound. When he has declined my suggestion that we could join WW together and that we would both benefit. Each morning, though, when I get up, I think maybe today is the day that I'll go for a walk or I'll take on a project in the house or in the yard. And I've occasionally made small strides in these areas, but not daily. With my son's over-the-phone assistance, I was able to get my bike ready to use. Then I rode it for about 2 blocks and got intensely out of breath. I thought, I really need to build stamina, especially for my future. Yet most days I simply sit in my recliner and escape into watching things on Netflix. I am continuing to attend my weekly WW workshops. I had put WW on hiatus for at least the previous year and resumed just a few weeks before my brother-in-law passed. On one hand, I don't expect you to have insight that I've not already heard. But on the other hand, I thought I would touch base and see what you might have to say. Struggling, I'm trying to refine hopefulness and focus regarding gaining a healthy lifestyle. Anne, if you're not new to the podcast or new to the podcast, you know that we get a lot of emails like this. And so that the comforting thing I can share with you is that you're not alone in this journey. That's the number one thing that this journey provides us, is the opportunity to meet and network and mingle with people who get it. And who've been through similar things. And so you opened your email saying, yeah, this is not a unique story in a sense, but regardless though, in that sense, it's your story. And so it doesn't matter if the whole world has gone through the exact same thing that you're going through. What matters is that this is your now journey, and it's impacting you, and you have to understand that that's okay. Deeply sorry, and my heart goes out to your entire family and for that incredibly long battle. I think I recognized in your email where you said there were some silver linings, and so that's kind of cool in a way to be able to recognize those in the moment. You spent 2 long years battling this side by side with him, and in the midst of all that, your entire life also changed. You've heard me talk about here on the podcast more than once, is that there are stages in life that somewhat are dealt with an incremental weight gain. Loss of a family member, birth of a family member, graduation, going to college, getting married, retiring. The list goes on and on and on, but there are things that happen in life that take so much focus away from us that we suddenly, even if we're on a great journey, we just lose it a little bit because these things are just significant life events. Going through 3 of them in a short period of time warrants you giving yourself a big hug. Wrap your arms around you as much as you can right now. I don't care where you are. Pull over if you have to. Put both arms around you and just squeeze as tight as you can. Count to 50 if you need to, but give yourself the hug that you so richly deserve. You did an amazing job, what you did, taking care of him, and I know that he appreciates it. I absolutely do. So, but here's where we are now. Right, we're at the point now where we say, okay, how do I pick up from here? What do I do? And COVID-19 is still a factor. Retirement still is, obviously, that's your lifestyle now. And who knows what's coming next? So what we have to do is we have to just kind of take our mind and go, okay, what are the things I actually can control? What can I do differently today? And I love your analogy, or not analogy, but your story of going out for a bike ride and using your son's expertise via the phone to get your bike up and running. You should celebrate that. That's a big deal. And so rather than thinking, and I joke with people about this, right? Rather than thinking you got to go out and be Tour de France and get this thing done, what I want you to do is ride it to the end of the driveway and come back. Right? Maybe I'm exaggerating a little bit, but think about it. I want you to every day that it's nice out, that the weather is comparable to do it, go for a bike ride. And don't worry about getting out of breath, because we're not going to go that far. But what we're doing is we're building the habit of you saying, I'm just going to get on the bike every day. And maybe I'm going to pedal for a minute, and I'm going to turn right around and come back, but I've gotten on the bike. And most days you can do that with the clothes you're already wearing. You don't even need to change for it. But what now you're doing is that you're deliberately, intentionally putting that activity on your plate. And it starts to free your mind and clear your mind, and every day you have something that you look forward to. And so a lot of times, one of the things we do is when we set some of these goals is let's say we get a bike and we want to go ride it, and we do get discouraged because I can't ride for 15, 20, 30 miles like I used to be able to, or whatever the analogy was, or whatever the distance was. So the first thing we do is we remember when we come off the bike is we have this memory of, or we have this vivid knowledge of, that was not fun. What I want you to do is I want you to get on the bike and go for such a short distance that when you come back, you're like, that was awesome. That was great. I enjoyed it. And then you go back and you come back a little further and a little further and a little further, and you work on this thing that where you just set the goal so small that you can consistently knock it out and get it done. You start where you are now, and you just continue. And so we just had that conversation not too long ago. We say, what can I do today? And think about that. And so not just in your activity level, but with your food and with your mindfulness as well, is what one small action can I take every single day and consistently do it so that I completely change my mindset. You start with your mindset. Everything else follows. Allow yourself proper time to really honor and grieve your best friend, right? I mean, that's what you went through is significant, and to process that and to not truly have the proper funeral that as you would have liked to have had if we weren't under these restrictions, allow yourself that opportunity to say it's okay. It's okay that I feel this way. But looking forward, how do I want to feel in the future? And run through that in your mind and say, yeah, I can do this, and I'm capable of hard things. You know, as you alluded to in your email, you've been through this scenario so many times with other family members. And so think about, what would you say to another family member, and really take those words to heart. You know the right answer. We all know the right answer. And usually knowing the answer isn't really just enough. But then walking through the steps and say, yeah, I can do this, and putting them so small that you actually do them changes your complete life. So, and thank you for writing in. And so set those small goals and let us know how you're doing. Out of Durham, North Carolina, Kim writes in and says, hey, Mike, I've been so happy that you're now back up and running, and the support your wife is giving you just makes me so happy. I love the new puppy too. Your daughter is something special to chime in with her parents as well. Not many teens that age would do so. I listened to your podcast today. It was recorded yesterday, and you know what? I get it. I was on my walk, and I decided to sit by the lake in our neighborhood and really listen. You were talking about the jerky emails that you're getting. Well, people can be so cruel. But my thoughts are there are more people out there that are good and see the good in everyone. That's what I see in what you do for all of us. I have maintained my goal weight for 3 years, largely from the motivation I get from you and my leaders in Durham, North Carolina. I have done WW off and on since I was 22 or 23 years old. I just turned 64. Lifetime at goal since 2017. Thank you. One of the best leaders I ever had, Eve, was a heavyset woman and always wondered about how she stayed a WW leader. I didn't care. She knew our struggles, gave great advice, and engaged her members in a way that I haven't seen since, always with a bit of humor. That said, we're all on this journey together. When we are perfect, isn't that great? When we aren't, isn't it great we have good support like you? When I lost my parents, I had a horrible time coping. I understand how grief affects your life. When our dear daughter-in-law was diagnosed with cancer after their first year of marriage and upended their world in every aspect of their life, I lost it. I came back to center because I'm of no use to anyone if I'm not healthy. Life is good for them now and for me by refocusing. Now this COVID-19 has thrown us all for a loop. I want to encourage you though. You mean so much to so many of us and to me especially from early on. We all have stories that define how we deal with weight. We just need to recognize how to deal. I deal with it by doing exercise every day and tracking, finding support and finding good recipes. I have a great support team, which you are a part of. Thank you for that. That said, thank you for hanging in there with us. How can we help you? Thanks for all you do for us, Kim. Kim, I love that analogy. And so, hey, listen, I share on rare occasions, I share some of the crazy emails I get. 99.99999% of all the communication I get from this community is incredible. Absolutely incredible. But I can't share 15 trillion messages a day. And in my brain, it's kind of like, I like to keep my lawn nice and clean too. And the one dandelion pops up, I'm going to go right out and I'm going to go, to snatch it, right? And I'm going to take care of it. So I don't look at all the 18 million grass blades in the front yard. I only see the one dandelion. So in essence, that's what happens here, right? I get a ton of amazing support. You guys, the community is absolutely incredible. I'm blessed beyond measure to even have the audience and the people and the support that I do. So thank you to the 18 trillion of you who are awesome. But so when I get an email that's not so awesome, most of the time I'm really truly able to just dismiss it. But every once in a while I find an opportunity to share it with you because I want a greater lesson to be taught. And so that's what I do there. And so, but I love your analogy, from the standpoint of, some of these great coaches, This is life. We have periods of incremental weight gain. We have periods where the focus isn't there, but it doesn't mean we don't know the right answer. It just means that we're trying to figure it out with the rest of us, and sometimes that's the best support system, is someone who truly knows what you're going through and living through. So I'm sure Eve was fantastic in that sense, and it doesn't matter. If you know how to motivate people, and you know how to talk to people, and you know how to love people, which is what we need, and teach people, if you know how to do all those things, then what you look like doesn't matter. Right? And so to some extent, we have to just kind of brush all that off and say, we want to be in our best shape. We all do. That's unquestionable. But it's different for everybody, and different depending on your stage of your life, and do what you need to do. And certainly your life has had those same challenges and struggles. But look at you, 64 years old, lifetime member since 2017. How awesome does that feel? I always want to know that question, right? From now on, if you write in and tell me that you're a lifetime member, or you're at goal, or you hit a major milestone, you have to answer it with how you feel, because I want to know how it feels. When you take a second to kind of say, tap into your mind and go, this actually feels amazing, right? I mean, even me thinking of it makes me smile, right? So when you actually tap into it, everything changes in your mind, and that's the feeling we're after. I say earlier in the podcast, right? Goal is a feeling. It's not a number on the scale. It's how you feel about yourself, and how do you just interact with yourself, and are you okay, and mentally and physically. All that stuff is way more important than the actual number on the scale, right? The scale number matters to some degree, but really, man, if you're happy, then stay happy. And so, we're all on this journey together, like you said. We're working it in the same boat. And having that support team is incredible. I appreciate your question at the end. How can we help you? And I'm going to tell you a couple things. I don't usually go this, usually answer that question. Well, yeah. Here's what I want to know. If you want to know how you can help, the number one thing you can do if you want to help me is stay connected to our community. That's the number one. I need the support. I need the motivation. I need to see all the amazing stuff that you guys are doing just as much as you want to listen to the podcast, you want to tune into the live show. It's a two-way street for me. I've said this before. I don't do anything much. I don't do much that doesn't benefit me, right? And so as much as I love you all, and I do, the reason I continue doing the podcast is because I get something in return from it. I get to share your email. I get to watch you change your life. I get to learn some things as well. So the number one way you can help me, if you truly want to help me, then promise yourself right now you're never going to leave this community. You're going to stay on this journey forever and be a part of this group of amazing people to get it done. There's plenty of ways to do that. Go into the Wise Wingman Facebook group. You can be a member there. It's a free Facebook group. You can join us there. You can make sure someone else knows about the podcast. Share it, right? Follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. Like all those profiles. When I post something that makes sense, share it with your friends and family in your community, because maybe they are looking for some help as well. So that's how you can really dive in and really make a difference, and I appreciate all of that always. But again, going back to the number one thing you can do is take care of you and always be a part of it. One of the things that I started realizing as I went through this is that I really, my entire life has been a life of service, and so I've been in the military for 27 years. And then this podcast kind of it allowed me to retire earlier than I planned on, because I saw a need that was out there. I saw so many people who said, I need help, Mike, I need help, and I want to lean on you for support. I realize that that's my calling, and I also know now, and maybe I got distracted a little bit, but I know now that the hashtag Be the Prize means something to all of us. So even with this, little fresh start, it's kind of interesting for me to see. So I fresh started. I rebooted my scale. I revamped my points on my app. I played some. I used the tools. To the limit. And so here I am 2 weeks into, or a little over 2 weeks into, tracking every single bite. The scale is responding awesomely. And what's fun to see is as that's happening, you guys are picking up some of that motivation as well. So I learned the hard way, so to speak, But I learned that that me having success and maintaining that success continues to fuel the community as well. So it's kind of re-energizing me as well in that lane. So Kim, thanks for your note. Thanks for all that you do, and keep up the amazing work. Congratulations again. 64 years old, lifetime member for a little over 3 years. I love it. I love it. Love it. It's funny, as I was saying this, Veronica is on Facebook. She says, I shared your inspirational story in my virtual meeting yesterday. Connect name, Facebook and podcast, and in the app info. So that's exactly what I'm talking about. It's always fun to see the live community chime in just as I'm getting ready to switch over. So Veronica, thank you. This next email comes in from Kristin. Kristin says, hey, Mike, first time writer here. I found you in your podcast about 2 years ago. I've always said that I would write in when I made goal. Well, I lost about 15 pounds and I've gained back 13. Not proud, but owning it, and it's the reality. Yesterday, I listened to an episode about this pandemic being the perfect time to make changes with no excuses. I had the time, I had the resources, everything is at my fingertips. I remember doing my WISE exercise a long time ago. I remember talking about wanting to be more fit, more active, and healthier. And while that's still true, I also, at nearly exactly the same weight last summer, hiked the highest mountain in Colorado. I've done lots of 5Ks at this weight. I work out daily, and I'm always down for a bike ride, a walk, or a CrossFit workout. So after some soul searching on my walk this morning, I really started to see that my why doesn't fit for me right now. I feel active, and yes, the less weight would be great, but it hasn't been enough to motivate me. Long story short, I don't have a new why yet, but I'm going to dig out that activity and really dig into it. I know what it feels like to be fit and at a healthy weight. I loved it. So I'm breaking mental barriers. I normally don't reach out. The thought of talking in a Zoom meeting and being vulnerable is outside of my comfort zone, but I'm going to do it anyways. I should mention that I'm a therapist, and I'm used to being the one giving the insights and pushing people to try new things. So I'm not writing to you a goal, but I know I will someday, and likely write in along the way. Sincerely, Kristin. Kristin, when we live just outside of our comfort zone, that's when the life really starts changing. When we start getting comfortable with what's going on, that's the moment where you need to look around and go, okay, what is going on? I'm way too comfortable. Maybe complacency setting in, something. But if you're comfortable, I encourage you to get uncomfortable, and that's where true growth happens. And you probably know that as a therapist. Certainly, I have zero experience as being a therapist, so don't take anything I say seriously in that sense, right? But here's what I want you to know. It's funny how when we have these grand visions of our goal, we spend some time, we'll go, here's what I want to do. And sometimes, and I don't know if this is your case or not, but sometimes we set a goal that we think society wants for us, or we think a friend wants for us, or someone else is doing. And what happens is that we kind of get a little bit envious, and so we do things for other people to some degree, and we certainly don't need to do that. You can define your journey however you want to do. You understand what feeling fit looks like, and you know if you want to get back there or not. You're clearly healthy and capable at the weight you are, and I think that's so true for a lot of us, is that you can be healthy and happy pretty much at any weight, right? Check in with your doctor to make sure that that's true, but you can do that. And so the quicker we make that decision mentally to be in a good place, then everything else can kind of shift around with it as well. So I want you to do a couple things, though, for me, and it's a fun little exercise. And for those of you listening, if you want to follow along as well, go to fatdag.com, click on the email link at the very top. I'll send you a copy of the Wiser Me workbook that's going to go through what I'm going to talk about in just a second. But certainly get that. It doesn't cost you a thing. It's just a free email. You get signed up for my email list as well. But the first thing I want you to do is I want you to have your vision. I want you to know, what is it that you're trying to accomplish? What's your 5-year plan? Where do you want to be 5 years from now? Now, that's kind of a funny question, because if you asked me 2 years ago where I wanted to be 5 years from now, this podcast may not have been on the list. And certainly now with all the restrictions we have in the world, we have to change it up. But I'm not asking you where you want to be financially. I'm not asking where you want to be spiritually. I'm not asking where you want to be, job-wise. I'm asking you, like, how do you want to feel 5 years from now? How do you want to feel, really, and dig into that? And so use the 5 questions that come in that workbook as the exercise. And of course, you know them, you've gone through it, but thinking about the expectations. Question 1: what are your expectations? So write it out. So what are you expecting to get? And so if health and stuff you already have, what can you reach out beyond your comfort zone and ask for? What do I want? What do I want to get out of this journey? What are my expectations? Ask yourself if you believe you can do it, which is question 2. So do I believe that what I'm trying to do is possible? If you ask it that way and you get anything but an instant yes, it's okay. I believe in you. And so allow me to believe in you until you get to the point where you believe in yourself. But knowing that what you're trying to do is actually possible is extremely powerful. That's the beauty of staying connected to this community, is that we can watch other people with similar challenges or even challenges maybe more significant, finding and having and success and then maintaining it. So if they can do it, then certainly I believe you can do it as well. And until you get to the point where you believe it, allow me to believe in your place. When it comes to the third question, we say, what's in your way? That really is you trying to look ahead and go, what challenges may come up? What roadblocks are there? Are they mental? Are they physical? Are they environmental? Are they social? What challenges do I have to successfully navigate to get to my end result of the vision that I set up for myself, that I am in the best shape of my life at whatever age I want to be at? Having that plan and understanding what you need to prepare for and what challenges will arise gets you off on the right foot. The real work from this exercise comes from question 4, which is, what's the hardest thing you've ever had to do? And so when you think about your life, of all the things that you've had to do, and you think about what's the hardest, most challenging, most difficult thing you ever had to do, something you don't ever want to repeat, knowing that you've gone through that life experience and you've made it out on the other side proves to you that you're strong. It proves to you that you can do hard things. Weight loss for some of us is right up there. It is the hardest thing we've ever had to do. And so if you're in the middle of that, knowing that you can just take one step at a time, moving forward one small piece at a time, is really where the true victory comes from. The fifth and final question comes and says, who is responsible for your success? So it's about taking ownership. And it's about saying, you know what? There's a lot of reasons why we aren't successful sometimes. We like to blame a social engagement. We like to blame a friend or a family member. We like to say, I'd be much better if this person didn't do this. But the reality is this is your journey, and 100% your journey. And once you take the ownership for it, a lot changes. A lot says, okay, this is if it has to be, it's up to me, right? That's the quote, or something similar to that. Take control, take responsibility, walk through this journey, and just say, okay, I can do this. Along the way, think about some goals that you want to set for yourself. And so we like to do them in 3 increments, and we say something along the lines of, think of a goal that's in an activity, in a moving sense. What can you do moving wise? And can you ride a bike? Can you go for a run daily? Can you consistently do some sort of activity? What can I do as a goal in my eating lane, like whether I track everything or have water or don't eat after 8 p.m. or set some goal around eating, and then set a goal around thinking. And so whether it's going to be journaling or writing or meditating or yoga, set some goals that really in those 3 lanes, small enough that you can accomplish them. What we're working on more than anything is the habit to completely change the life that you're in. And so if we just add a small piece to it every single day and you consistently do it, by the end of the month, you really are a different person. And it's the person that your vision told you wanted to be. Set the goals around, if your vision was, hey, I want to be a runner, well, then set a goal to run 10 feet a day. You're now a runner. If you do it 31 days a month, you're a runner, right? And so whatever goal you want to set, go after it and make sure that you get it done. So Kristin, thanks for your email. Thanks for the courage it took to write it. And I recognize that. And this is certainly outside of your comfort zone. And the fact that you've taken the time to own it and to say, yeah, I'm going to do this is very powerful. I know you know that as a therapist as well. So thank you for doing that. I'm proud of you. Truly, truly, truly proud of you for taking the first step of the new you. Congratulations. The last email comes in out of California. Heather writes in, says, "Hey, FatDag and listeners, so many emails talk about struggles and that they're very real to every one of us. But today I'm not interested in sharing how things have gone in my previous 18 years with WW. Instead, I want to celebrate that I have lost 50 pounds. I started back in August of 2019. I have a great coach, and when we get to return to the studio and the workshops, we will celebrate there. I have not set a long-term goal yet, but I'll know when I get there. The journey really does take discipline and hard work. Wishing each of you a successful day, Heather." Heather, 50 pounds. Congratulations. I was thinking when Lisa and Heather produced the show for me and got it all ready, and you guys know this too. There's a lot of life that happens on this podcast. A lot of life comes at us a million miles an hour, and it's real. It's very real to all of us. But it's fun to also celebrate, and it's important to celebrate. I end every episode with, what is it that you're celebrating? And I'm going to go there shortly. You're going to hear me ask that question. And so what I want you to do is write in and just like Heather did, say, I'm down 50 pounds. Folks, you cannot lose 50 pounds accidentally. You can't. It takes discipline and hard work. It takes planning. You can't just say, I want to lose 50 pounds and wait and see what happens. It's just not going to work that way. You have to do something different. You got to make a plan. You got to stick to the plan. You got to modify the plan. You got to throw the plan away. You got to remake a new plan. You got to say no at times when you really want to say yes. You have got to do things differently if you want something differently done. If you want to lose 50 pounds just like Heather did, it just takes you saying, yes, I'm going to do it. And changing your environment if you can, changing your work if you can, change whatever you have to change up and make goals that support this new lifestyle of who you want to become, and go do it. Now, I know it's not that easy, and boy, if it was just as easy as doing it, we would all just do it, right? There's a lot that comes at us, but the important factor is never, ever give up. Never leave this community. As your wingman, I'm not leaving you. Right? And so we stay connected and we celebrate together because that is what is fun. Watching you have success, watching the community have success, it's my favorite part of the podcast for sure. So if you have those, absolutely, I want to do episode 300 as I open the show. Episode 300, I want it to be just full of celebration. So on air at fatdag.com is where you send that in, and that's what we do to get it done. So as I close the show, I always say, what is it that you're celebrating? Go ahead, let's share it on the air. Just like I said, go to fatdag.com, click on the Wise Advice Podcast, send in those celebrations, comments, and questions. I will work them in as part of the show. I want you to email in the celebrations because I really want you to be proud of what you're doing. You heard in Heather's email just how happy she was to finally put it in paper and celebrate with thousands of us listening to the podcast. So that's what it's all about. Keep doing that. Keep doing the things that you know propel you in the direction that you truly want to go. You can do it. I'm walking with you. I'm proud of you. And I believe in you every step of the way. But that's going to do it for this time. Remember that losing weight and getting healthy has nothing to do with luck. You have to remain disciplined and focused. Set your sights on your goal and go after it. From Jacob in the booth, and we're working on the editing side, and from Lisa and Heather, my producers, we wish you good focus. Bye-bye.